Oh yeah, hi, I'm Chris.
Yeah, I'm Philip.
And we have a small presentation for you today that is a little bit different, I would say, like the other presentations that are going on here. So it's not really technical, or maybe a little bit, but it's more about the community. Where do we come from a little bit? Where does the OSFC come from? And also where we're heading for, right? So what does the future look like? We have some photos, and let's kick in with some how does the OSFC actually started, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I'm Philip. You may know that I'm the founder of the OSFC 3 years ago. So how it started and how I came to the idea is a good question. So in 2014, I was already member of the Coreboot community from the Coreboot project, and we had a small conference in Prague, as you can see in the picture. It's quite small, I would say. This was the smallest one I attended.
How many people? Like 20 or?
Around 20, probably 15 more, like 15, 17 people. So I was sitting on the right with a black hoodie.
Yeah.
So and I was working the first time on AMD platforms, so the older AMD chipset platforms,
Right.
and it was quite fun. And so we did a lot of stuff there. Also talked about Flash ROM, and this was the beginning of the conferences I experienced during that time, because I started in 2013, so people were already contributing earlier, since 2000, for Coreboot, but I guess this was the first big conference. So,
okay,
yeah.
Where was it?
In Prague.
Ah, in Prague.
Right.
Right.
So we drank a lot of beer, right? So this is
Wow.
like,
What is
this
it
is Prague, typical for Prague is drinking a lot of beer and eating good food.
All right.
Yeah, this was quite fun. Yeah, and then a year after that, we decided to have again a conference because it was so much fun. This time it was a little bit bigger, I guess around 20 to 25 people, probably 30. I'm not sure.
That looks more serious.
Yeah, it was definitely more serious. So this was the German BSI. So it's the BSI is somehow an institution, German government institution, which is takes care of security for the citizens, and they sponsored our conference with the rooms, and so that was kind of serious. So we also had some important persons doing the keynote. This was the first time it got
the president of the BSI came.
Not the president, but some important guy. I can't remember anymore. I can't remember anymore. So, but it was a nice conference. The funny part was we wanted to work for sure. So all conferences we did so far was with hacking. You can see that in the previous picture. So we were hacking on stuff, and the problem was in the building we couldn't solder. So we had to rent out of the building with 5 degrees Celsius outside, and so like I was sitting there like, oh, it's cold, right? And so this was so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's really ancient, so it's quite funny. So we skipped some 1 year here, as you can see, 2016. So in
2016 was nothing, or?
Yeah, that was so I came up with the idea of saying, okay, let's split up those conferences in the European and the American Coreboot conference, right? Because we have people in America and we have people in Europe, and so in order to split it up, that they don't have to fly around, we split it up. And in 2016 we had an American Coreboot conference also in 2017, but I don't have pictures there anymore, so I don't know where they got lost. So probably some other people have.
If you have them, feel free to
share
them with us.
That would be some fun. So American Coreboot conference was already 50 people, or I would say 30 to 50, I don't know, maybe 40.
The American one?
Yeah, this was like in 2016 was already quite big. It was at Google in San Francisco.
Nice.
And that was quite nice. Then I started my own, right? I said, hey, I can do that in Germany, in Bochum, where I come from. So I tried that in 2017. So at that time we were around 50 people, I guess. So that was solid. Maybe also 60.
So you made it even.
Yeah, we
50
made it
in America, 50 in Europe.
Yeah. So we made it even. Yes. And so it was great. As you can see, we were visiting one park here. It was a famous one, and did some photos. Anyway, so it was quite nice. You can find the old European Coreboot conference at legacy.osfc.io. So you can just look it up.
Yeah.
This was the first one, and then at that point there was some breaking. So we had an additional American corporate conference in the same year. It was in Colorado, as far as I know. Probably I got the time order wrong, but I'm sure it was in Colorado. So, and the thing is, I thought it would be great if we have more attendees there, and our attendees only came from the corporate community, and so the amount of people were quite limited, right? So just one project, and so I thought maybe it makes sense if we make a conference for all people, right? From different open source firmware projects, and also probably from the hardware world, so they can all attend at the conference and talk to each other, because during the time, the let's say competition between open source firmware projects, I mean, it's even still there. The competition is quite high, so the people don't speak to each other, right? And so I thought it would be a good idea to really share knowledge and come together on one table and discuss open source firmware.
So that's more or less how it all started then.
Yeah, this is how it started, and then in 2018. We did the first corporate conference in, I guess it was in Erlangen, if I remember. Erlangen was it, You can see that on the right picture in the top.
That's a nice room, actually.
Yeah, this was in a church,
like
right?
Rock style.
Yeah, it was in a church, so it was kind of cool.
Nice.
And then the second one was in the US, that was 2019. So Facebook and Google played sponsor and helped us to organize a conference, because Silicon Valley is quite expensive, so it's really hard to get the conference done there.
You still remember how many people were in Erlangen, like on the first OSFC?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So probably 150, 200?
You're right.
150, I guess.
That's quite a lot, right? I mean, if you imagine, we have the ECC and the ACC was 50 each, more or less. So that increases again by 50%, more or less. So that's quite huge.
Yeah, and in the US, so in 2019 we had 250 people.
Yeah.
And today we are here virtually.
That's actually the couch that we're sitting on. Obviously.
Today we found out we have 318. I'm not sure. Or 40.
318 or 19. So, but who counts exactly?
Yeah. So we grow a little bit bigger again, and this is a good sign. So this is really cool. And so who is really, so the question which comes from there then is who is the community, right? Who is joining our conference? So we just listen some projects here.
It's an incomplete list, all right? So if your project is not on there, sorry. It's not like a super well prepared talk here. If that's incomplete, of course you still belong to OSFC. Right?
Yeah, right. And I think also a lot of people from the security background come to the conference, right? It's not only about the open source firmware community, but we have different projects here, as you can see. So the MU is coming from Project MU.
So the Microsoft?
This is a Microsoft Tiano Core low attack surface implementation. So Jeremiah is working on that. He's also in the OSF hop-in system, so you can just... I saw
him yesterday,
And he's working on that. Then we have Tiano Core for sure. That's an open source UEFI implementation from Intel. We are also currently a lot of different other companies working on.
I mean, Tiano Core EDK2 is the standard, more or less, right? I mean, if you want to do open source firmware and you basically want to support Windows and Linux systems, so UEFI whatsoever, EDK2 is the must go way to go. So I guess that's quite well known, right?
That's true.
And of course we got Coreboot, which is our main project here that we are working on.
Yeah, where I started with.
Right? So that's all where it all comes from. All right, cool.
And then OpenBMC for sure.
Yeah.
The problem is with OpenBMC, there are so many forks at the moment. I really don't know which one it is. So I guess is there a combined effort again? I'm not sure.
I am also not sure. I guess they forked up some point in time, and I also think like the reasons are not super well known anymore. It's like a long time ago, and however, I'm not sure if that's the original OpenBMC or is it the Facebook, or do you have different logos? But OpenBMC is there. Let's group them all together. Sorry, they're all OpenBMC. For sure, we also have Orgood, of course. I mean that's the talk that's coming after us.
Yeah.
more or less. So check that out. That will be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
UBMC, which is also newer and smaller project, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's a BMC side project, which is also quite nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it tries to leverage like the same concept that we have in Koboot and Linux Boot U-root type of thing. So that could be something that might be worth checking out, because I could imagine that might be something that could grow bigger in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely an alternative BMC system.
Yeah. Totally.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's trusted firmware, which is comes from the ARM standardization effort,
Mm-hmm.
which is implementing the ARM Trust Zone experience,
Mm-hmm.
and this is also quite interesting because this now this is doable now with Linux Boot as well. So
Yeah.
so you can combine Linux Boot with multiple open source firmware projects. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Then we have Linux Boot for sure, as you know, booting
Sure.
a Linux kernel inside your firmware for having a Linux environment. We have the U-boot, which is already a long time there.
I like the logo so much.
Yeah.
That's small.
Do you know, we did the logo, right? So I asked the U-boot guys if they have the logos. They told me no. And so, no, we didn't do a logo. Sorry, that wasn't we. The ORBoot logo we did. The U-boot logo, sorry, that's not our work. The U-boot logo came from, so hard to remember, came from their side, but I don't know if they changed it again. So it's really hard to keep track on all those logos.
Yeah, for sure.
But this came from their side. I remember. ORBoot was our work, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, Slimboot logo,
Yeah.
of course, is there. Also, system transparency, something that we haven't included here.
Yeah.
Safe boot, for example, is also maybe something we could mention.
Yeah, there are tons of different other bootloader implementation. For example, we could also talk about, if we talk about firmware and we say, okay, OSFC is not only for firmware, also for bootloader, we could also talk about grub and other parts, right? The thing is that there are tons of firmware out there, and probably also some firmware coming out like Min platform,
Yeah,
but it's not public.
It hasn't got a logo yet, as far as I know, so
yeah.
Sorry.
This is also the next thing probably which happens, but we will see. And I think probably we should have like a list of all projects, right?
Yeah, that is actually missing, right?
Yeah.
So like a comprehensive list, like these are parts of that open source firmware conference world, or like the OSF ecosystem in whatever way, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, all of these projects are welcome here, so they can always send in talks and yeah, they can get a stage where they can talk about their project. And I think that's also something that made the OSFC quite special, that we try to bring in also newer projects from time to time, so that they get some attention on these kind of things. So that's quite cool. Yeah. But like in the end, what you can see here, it's like all about the community, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the most important thing, I would say.
Yeah. So, but next year probably you should focus on having bring your own project lightning talks, right?
That would be nice, actually. Like all these fancy startup talks that you have nowadays, where you have like these 5-minute pitches, and you can pitch your project, and you get, I don't know, a prize, something. You get a logo, for example.
Yeah.
We do that. I'm making it fix. We do that. So we make, next year we have a startup pitching event, and yeah, the prize is a logo. If you don't have one, if you have one, you can get a better one, right? So that's easy as that. Yeah. All right.
Cool. Great.
I mean, but also the interesting thing is here is we managed in the last year to get all these kind of projects, or most of these projects actually come together at the conference, of course, on the one hand side, but also on the OSF firmware Slack, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite cool, I would say. I mean, we started that, or I do not start that. We didn't start that, but that was started in 2016.
Yeah, I guess by Ron and his team. I don't know who started it, but I guess it was Ron, Ron Minnick. So I'm not sure completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a name change from U-root, which is basically the initramfs generator. We use the Linux boot. To now it's OSF firmware.slack.com. And
I mean, and there you see that it actually does it come from U-root, because when the name was U-root Slack.com before, then it was initiated by U-root, and then
I guess it was U-root, and then they invented Nerf, which was the UEFI plus Linux boot, and then later on it exploded with open source firmware, and then we said, okay, let's do open source firmware in general.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, okay, and now we have it all gathered together at the osfw.slack.com.
Yeah,
So
that's
a
a
fun place.
The interesting part is that we already have 690 members so far. So
from today?
No, a few days ago.
Okay.
So probably it's now 700, but this is really insane because
join the Slack.
So join the Slack.
Yeah.
You can see the join link under Oscar. So slack.eurote.com and please join.
Yeah.
And we have 47 public channels is also.
That's quite big, yeah. And I think what you also experienced like in the last 2 to 3 years, more or less, is that a major part of the communication more or less moves to Slack nowadays. Of course, each of that project has their own mailing list, or Coreboot also has like an IRC channel and stuff where also a lot of communication is going on. But it feels a little bit like it's slowly like moving to Slack, which is also, and I think that we have all that stuff centralized at some point in time, right? So you can join the OSFW Slack, and then you can check out all the project and all the different channels and so on.
Yeah.
So that is, so in my opinion, that's definitely something that we should push forward.
And I would say the OSFW Slack itself is just, let's say it's bringing all those open source firmware projects with your own communication channels together, and so you can talk about stuff in the Slack cross project wise, right? So this is really great.
Totally.
Yeah. Then so
we also have some statistics on that, I guess.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to talk about. So you can see the fresh statistics from a few days ago, and so it's showing how many weekly active members we have. And there's one spike. Amazing. Yeah, but there's one spike in 2017. I'm not sure what it was. I guess it was Linux boot, but I'm not sure. So there's one huge spike. And so before it was, as you can see, in 2016 was not so much going on, but now we have around 160 weekly active members, which is really a lot.
That's huge. I mean, if you compare that, for example, to December 2017 or so, that's like a factor by 10 nearly, right?
Yeah.
And that is just incredible. So, yeah, you see that this community is actively growing a lot, actually, and much faster than we thought it would be. So that's super nice.
Yeah.
Now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
But at that point, we of course have to thank Google a little bit here, because they're actually the one maintaining it and keeping it alive. So no one else out of the community does actually do that. So thanks for that, Google, that you're keeping the Slack online.
Yeah.
And however you do that, but that's good.
Yeah. And this is so a huge thanks for also from my side, because this is definitely a lot of work and so.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this year, right? So, I mean, this year is nearly over. It's December, beginning of December. Christmas is upcoming, and like, what, in your opinion, were like the biggest impacts in OSF this year? Like, what was the thing that you said, okay, that's cool, that was important this year, that was something that moves OSF forward?
Yeah, that's a good question, Christian. So I think the most impact this year was that we got open source firmware support for server systems. So I'm talking about the scalable systems from Intel platforms. AMD systems are not ready yet, that's true, but we got a lot of OSF support there. And I guess there's also some effort from mp4 currently having OSF on server systems as well. So this would be ARM systems then, ARM 64-bit systems.
I mean, you saw that on the OCP Tech Week.
Yeah.
They presented mp4 server system with Linux boot running on it. HPE is heavily moving into that direction. So they have server system with Linux boot running on it. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and because of the OSF accepted criteria and requirements they have there, it's going to be, I guess, must in March 2021, probably later on. I don't know if they shifted the deadline a little bit later, but
probably, but I don't think so. But I mean, the thing here is this effort from the OCP, and that's actually a nice thing that we can like have side effects between each other, right? And that the OCP said, okay, if you want to be OCP accepted, your firmware has to be redistributable, it has to be built by the user and these kind of things. That actually puts more speed on OSF, which is actually nice.
Yeah, there's a pressure on the server side.
Yeah, that's the pressure on the server side. But I mean, that's
true.
also one very important side.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we got Xeon SP supporting Cobalt this year. We got Skylake SP, Cooper Lake SP. Also on the OCP, they talked about supporting the future Xeon SP platforms. So that looks like a very bright future on that part.
Yeah,
I would say, and also like for me, one of the nice things to see is that more and more hardware vendors playing around with OSF, and also we have a couple, for example, in Coreboot, we have a couple of vendors nowadays who do natively support Coreboot, right? So it's not like it used to be in the good old days that you have ported the platforms over, so you have something UFI running on it before, and then you ported it to Coreboot. They just natively run Coreboot on it.
Yeah, right. System 76 on laptops, for example, right?
Yeah, totally. The Protectly, I guess.
Yeah, on embedded devices, right? So
Yeah.
or on hardened embedded machines or something like that.
Yeah, it's the one with boot guard. So that's the 3M that work that they did there. So that was super nice. I saw that. I saw that on the conference. So that worked like smooth, really, a super smooth device. We got ProDrive. They do the like an entry server system workstation. It runs natively Coreboot on it.
Yeah.
And I think there are even more. So that's something that came up this year quite heavily.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. Another thing, of course, is we improved testing a little bit. So I think I know like many people cannot hear the testing, so I will not talk that much more about it anymore. But like if we are moving that more into a corporate thing, or that we want to, have that natively running on systems, we do have it tested in some way, right? So making these projects harden and more stable, and that you have known good states and these kind of things, that's super important for me.
Yeah, the good thing is in Coreboot we have the first QA system running for the entire firmware world, right?
Publicly available at least,
so and distributed.
Yeah.
Right, we can attach multiple systems from different vendors there, and it's there for the community. So it's already upstream, and the interesting part is we already found bugs by running the QA system.
Yeah.
And it was easier to bisect than later on. So this was also quite interesting.
Totally, yeah. And I mean that's just nice things, right? To talk about a little bit here, we got AMD is also ramping up their support in Coreboot, like the Picasso platforms. That looks more and more nice.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something which gives us a bright future.
Yeah. Also, another important part which I think is has a lot of impact this year was Linux boot adoption.
Oh yeah.
Because I think there are more and more companies currently have heard about that they're using Linux boot in production now.
Yeah.
And Linux boot looks like it's running on at least 1 million of servers at the moment, and it's growing. Yeah. So it's getting more and more adoption in different parts, especially for the data center market, but I think also for other parts it's getting to be interesting to use.
Yeah.
For example, an embedded.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit like OSF is grows up a little bit more and more. So to really have stand against the other closed source firmwares there, which is super nice to see.
Yeah,
I would say. Talking about future, right? I mean, what is things that are coming up? So what's coming next year? And that's
a good question.
That's a very good question, actually.
Yeah.
And we worked on something the last couple of months, I would say.
At least from 9element side, right?
At least from 9element side. And yeah, I guess we worked something out.
Yeah, that's true. So I can probably then introduce you to the Open Source Firmware Foundation. So after we founded the Open Source Firmware Conference, we thought it would be a good idea to have a foundation based in the US as well, which is important for running as an umbrella foundation, which is also possible to host a lot of different open source firmware projects if they want to be hosted by our foundation. Aside from that, we as 9elements, we are just one company. And I think it's important that other players get more stake into the open source firmware area, and also for the open source firmware conference. So our idea is to pass our conference on some point, if the foundation is big enough, to the foundation, so the foundation and different other parties can have a stake in, and other companies which are consumers of open source firmware and use open source firmware massively, they can also say, we want to go in this direction, or have some influence in that, and bring the whole topic forward into great success.
Totally. I mean, I think it's very important that we gather all the projects under, as you said, one umbrella, so that we coordinate on each other, that we have better communication, and also, as you said, like the end users, the SOC vendors, the ones that integrate the solutions. So and all these, so that we have one platform where we can talk to each other and where we can coordinate each other. And I think if we want to really grow up and have more impact, then I mean, OSF is already a huge success story in that's what I think at least. We need some kind of foundation to get that all under one hat.
That's true. I completely agree.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
I would say that's basically everything that we can show you today. So we will put more information out about the foundation in the next couple of months. So that is something that we're actively working on. That is something that will grow now. So if you want to talk about it, feel free to get in contact with us, right?
Yeah. And we have a follow-up session, right?
We do have a Q&A coming up, as with every talk. That will surprise also be live. No, that's recorded. Yeah.
It's opposite, right?
No. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the QA session. We will just head over to our computers and hook into the session, and then let's talk about it. And then we are eager to see Ron's AMD talk coming up. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone, and have a nice OSFC.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye bye.